Hey guys, what's happening? It's Nate with Play Your Court. Today I'm going to share 3 quick tips to help with your backhand slice. All right, the backhand slice, we all need them no matter what. At some point we're going to be defending and we're going to have to cover court with one hand, whether you have a two-hander or not. It's also just such a super effective weapon to change up pace with the slice. And I'm going to show 3 things today that's going to help improve it immensely. Today's Play Your Court instruction is for players of all abilities because we all need this. If you want your own Play Your Court rating, make sure you hit the link below, check out the link below where you can try it for free. All right, so the backhand slice, let's go over 3 major checkpoints. All right, the very first one has to do with the racket take back. I see a lot of players that are starting with their racket low or they're not taking the racket back far enough. So tip number 1 is get the racket strings back to your ear. All right, and so from my ready position, I'm in my forehand grip, right? That's what I want my ready position in because I'd rather hit a forehand than a backhand. But as I see that I'm getting pulled to my backhand, whether I'm running or I'm just using the slice as a neutral ball to mix things up, I want to make the change to the continental grip. You can play with a little bit of an Eastern here, your preference. But as I'm taking the racket back, I want to make sure my elbow is up and I'm pulling the strings to my ear. This is solely being done with my left hand. All right, so from here, I'm establishing, and you'll notice I'm out on my outside leg. All right, number 2, I wanna make sure that I establish my front foot. All right, I don't wanna work through the slice and then try to step, and I don't wanna try to do them simultaneously. That happens sometimes. I wanna make sure that I'm transferring the weight from the outside foot, and then as my foot goes down, you can tell it actually makes the racket go back a little bit further. And then from here, I'm gonna have that weight transfer. All right, important to note here is that my arm goes from bent and then it goes to straight as I'm driving the racket to the ball. All right, tip number 3, and perhaps the most important, this is about the swing path. We want to make sure that we're swinging across the ball, that we're not swinging through. Now, the racket does work to extension, but I don't want the racket falling all the way out to the target and stopping here. When you do that, when the swing stops here and it gets choppy, what ends up happening is you're going to float the ball. You're not going to get through the ball enough, or you're not going to get across the ball enough, so the ball is going to end up going up, maybe have too much side spin, but you don't want slice to necessarily float, right? So working across the ball, working from this high position, establishing that front foot, the racket's gonna work out and then across the ball, and that is gonna make it bite and stay really low. It's also gonna make your partner back up, which is good for you in your positioning. The only time it won't make them back up is if you elect to play it soft, or maybe you're hitting a drop shot or a chip, and that is also effective. All right, let's take a look at the demo. We'll highlight these 3 key points to improving your backhand slice. All right, guys, so those are the 3 major tips. In summation, start with the racket strings back to the ear. Make sure you have that nice coil. Establish your front foot before the forward swing. This is gonna help you accentuate the backswing. It's also gonna create a weight transfer from that back foot to front foot. And then finally, make sure you're swinging across, that you're not going through to the target. Just to clarify, yes, your arm straightens out, but you don't want to hold it there. You want to let it come across. You're aiming for the outside of the ball, especially on those cross courts. All right, guys, really hope today's lesson helped. If it did, hit that like button. If you never want to miss a Play Your Court video, hit subscribe and maybe share with a friend if you think it's helpful. All right, we'll see you next time.